Okay, great. Well, thank you very much. I'll just get straight into it. Get past this disclosure slide. Okay, so Desert Gold is a TSXV listed company. We're also listed in the US and in Frankfurt as well. We are a West African gold exploration company. Our focus is entirely in Western Mali, where our flagship Senegal Mali Shear Zone project is our main focus. It's a 440 square kilometer contiguous land package with exposure to the two most important regional features that are related to some very large gold deposits in the region, which I'll get into in a bit more detail. So we're bracketed by some very significant gold deposits and producing mines. In management, I've been operating in Mali since 2011. Don Dudek, our VP of exploration, our technical director, he's been operating there a little bit longer than that. So we've got a lot of experience in West Africa in terms of exploration, land consolidation, and discovery as well. So we published an initial maiden resource earlier this year of 1.1 million ounces, and the breakdown of I'll go into the resource a little bit more detail in future slides. But essentially, we have resources coming from 5 different zones, all within a reasonable radius. And we believe that all of those zones will expand materially. And 2 of them are a major focus of exploration this season. And I'll get into that in a bit more detail. So it's a target-rich environment. There's 23 known gold zones on the property confirmed by drilling. Hundreds more gold occurrences in soil geochemistry as well. So the overall objective, we're looking for a big deposit or several big deposits on these land package. We believe those targets are achievable given the regional endowment in Western Mali. So we've got 150.2 million shares issued and outstanding, 7.9 million stock options, and warrants 38.5 million with a weighted average strike price of 28 cents Canadian. So diluted, we're at 196.6 million. I'm Jared Scarf, like I said. Sonny Janda, our chairman, representing a very large shareholder group. Don Dudek, our technical director, formerly of Avion in Western Mali until they were bought out by Endeavour. That was a deposit that I'll show you in a few slides. And then he started a company called Savory in Burkina Faso. They made a nice discovery there. They were bought out by Semafo, and Semafo was ultimately bought out by Endeavour. So just a little bit of background on the region. Mali is the 4th largest gold producer on the African continent. 2019 annual production was just about 2.3 million ounces. And there's about 26 million ounces of reserves, and a lot more of that in terms of resource. And there were several recent new discoveries, such as Roscan, further south along the belt, and as well as B2 Gold and Anaconda and the expansion of Fekola. So it's a very active exploration area. There's been a lot of M&A activity in this region in the last 10 years. So like I said, our main focus is on our Senegal Mali Shear Zone project. It's the largest contiguous land package that I'm aware of any explorer in the region. So this picture here on this slide kind of, oh, apologies. Kind of says it all. This gold band here that goes from north to south is the rough outline of the regional feature called the Senegal-Mali Shear Zone, which is where a lot of the major deposits are related to or are proximal to the Senegal-Mali Shear Zone. For instance, at the north, the Yatela Sadiola mines, which are now Allied Gold, an Australian company, historical combined resources and production are in excess of 13 million ounces. And then going further along the belt, this outline in black, this is the Desert Gold Senegal-Mali Shear Zone project. And the gold stars represent significant resources. And the 43101, our initial 43101, where the ounces come from, are in the southern area here, and at another zone called Barani East in the center of the property. We believe that this exploration corridor is tier 1 targets with potential to 2 to 5 million ounces, given what we've seen so far to date. Lulo, 10+ million ounces, Gunkodo 5, B2 Gold's Fekola is now, I think, close to 7 and still growing. The other secondary regional feature in this part of the world is the main transcurrent here. And this is what Massawa, Mako, Gora are all related to. This was the Massawa, Sabodala, and Gora deposits were formerly Teranga, and Endeavour bought them out, I think, within the last 6 months, or maybe slightly longer than that, but a fairly recent transaction and was a significant acquisition. So we've pieced together this property package over the last several years with the idea of trying to get as much exposure to both these features as possible. We have about 38 kilometers of strike along the Senegal-Mali Shear Zone and about 10 or 11 along the main transcurrent. So this is just a zoomed in image of our property package. And I'll just walk you through a couple of the more salient points here. This blue dashed line is where we've marked the Senegal-Mali Shear Zone. We have a larger regional magnetic picture of what's going on here. And basically, we mark it roughly where the break is between the low and high magnetic. And the yellow and purple dots are soil geochemistry, soil samples, 50 to 200 part per billion gold, yellow, and the purple is 200 ppb and greater. And in this part of the world, we've seen soil samples run as high as 16,000 ppb or 16 grams per ton. Every star you see here is a gold zone that's been intercepted by drilling, confirmed by drilling. And where I've highlighted the circles in red is where the initial resources currently are. And I'll get into that in a bit more detail. In this current work season, the primary focus of the current drilling is at this target here, Gorbassi West North, which was a recent discovery last season, and at Mogia Fara South, which was a property we acquired that is, in my eyes, one of the best pieces of exploration ground in this region, and I'll discuss why we feel that is. So currently, the existing resource is 8.47 million tons, grading 1.14 gold, totaling 310,000 ounces in the inferred mineral category, and excuse me, in the measured and indicated category, and 20.7 million tons, grading 1.6 gram per ton gold at 769,000 ounces inferred. And again, it's coming from these 5 zones outlined in red. And management is confident that with additional work, these numbers will expand or could expand materially. Here's a more detailed breakdown of the resource. I won't go through every category. It's more just if you wanted to look at it in more detail for yourself as well. Our full technical report is filed on CEDAR. Okay, so this is a bit more detail what we're doing with the 2022 exploration program. All the holes you see in yellow here are air core holes. We like to use air core, especially when we're doing first pass over soil geochemistry targets. It's a very cost-effective way to drill. Once you get into the fresh rock, usually you can't push the air core very much further, but in some cases where we are able to drill the air core as far down as 60 meters. And then the red holes you see are RC and core holes. And then the green blocks you see here are walking magnetic surveys that we've carried out this season. And we're doing that to try and get more detailed structural information about these targets. So again, the drilling at Gorbassi West North is ongoing as we speak. We've completed the first 6 holes, which are a combination of diamond and core holes, and assays have been sent to the lab, and we're just waiting results. So we're going to drill about 5,000 meters in this area, and then we'll take the rig over to Mogiafara South, which is at the moment the largest zone. We've got about 400,000 ounces of resource here, and we haven't even been able to drill our own holes yet at Mogiafara South because we just got the property back in September. But we have the historical database from the previous company who did the work in the early 2000s. So as I mentioned, we completed some walking magnetic surveys. We've restarted the phase 2 drill program at Gorbassi West North. That should be wrapped up in the next 2 weeks, and then we'll move the rig over to Mogiafara South. So again, just to touch on the highlights, it's an extremely large land package, contiguous to some of the most important regional features for big discovery. And that's really what Desert Gold is looking for, you know, to be a 2 million ounce plus player in the region. We think that's realistic and achievable with time. Our target model is working. If you look at the results from our last 2 or 3 drill programs, the results have been very good, and we've added a lot of material ounces to the property package, and we're just trying to get the resource to that sort of scale or size where some of the bigger players in the region start to take notice. So we believe there's a lot of upside in this story. All management will say this, but I think we're heavily undervalued, but it's been a bit of a challenging market lately, but that's okay. We keep moving forward. So the plan this season is to drill 20,000 meters of mixed RC, air core, and diamond, as well to do about another 20,000 meters of auger drilling, which is a technique that we use. It's essentially soil sampling, but to get underneath laterite covered into the geology. We've finished and completed 79 kilometers of ground magnetics, and we're very pleased with the results. I'm just going to drill down into the 2 zones in a bit more detail where we're doing our work right now, because that is our focus this season. We have other stuff that we like, but we kind of have to manage it in terms of priority, and basically priority boils down to where we see the potential for the biggest gold systems. So the first one is the Gorbassi West North. And one of the areas where we have resource is at Gorbassi West down here in the south. It's around 200,000 ounces. You can see the pit outline here, and the golden triangles represent all the historic drilling that have been done, either by ourselves or by our predecessor, Ashanti Gold. There's also some highlighted drilling from our last program in terms of grade over width. And it's an interesting looking deposit. But as we explored further north along trend, there was a couple of soil geochemical anomalies that we were interested in. And so we drilled a couple lines of air core into them, and we ended up making a very material discovery on this fence here. This was the original discovery fence. And we essentially drilled into a 94-meter wide gold zone that started essentially from surface, grading average about 1 gram with some hot spots, you know, running 2-3 grams in between. So we stepped out and drilled another fence and got very similar, very encouraging results. And these wide systems, excuse me, that start at surface are very amenable to open pit mining. So this discovery was made towards the end of last calendar year. And really what we wanted to do was get right back out there and drill some deeper holes, some core holes to get better geological information, basically drill below these fences of air core across the geology. And that's what we're doing now. And then in addition to that, we'll run some air core fences, sort of infill drilling, and also stepping out to the north because the system is still open along strike in both directions. So this is where the drilling's going on currently. To give you a sense, this 200,000 ounce zone here, the average width of this zone is about 35 meters. At its widest up here, like I said, it's about 94 meters. So it's a much wider system. It's early days. We need to drill it at depth to better understand it. But so far, we're quite encouraged. And if you step out a little bit, well, here's some cross sections actually before I get ahead of ourselves. So here's the cross section of the original discovery line of the air core fence. And we've highlighted the drill intercept grade over width. And as you can see, most of these air core holes, some of them, virtually the entire hole was mineralized, and they have kind of a higher grade core. And so if you can see my cursor, some of the holes we're drilling, is a diamond core hole going 260 meters across the rock package like this, and another one through here as well. And that's really just designed to test the depth potential of this area. And we'll just have to see what the assays tell us. And then the second cross section, this is 250 meters to the north of the section I just showed you. Again, very encouraging. And so we're drilling at depth across this rock package as well, using diamond and RC. These holes have actually been completed and we've moved on to the air core infill. So we're just waiting for results from the lab, and fingers crossed. Zooming out a little bit to this property package, you can see Gorbassi West here with the 200,000 ounces. You can see the new discovery of Gorbassi West North here. But from a larger regional perspective, and again, I touched on the main transcurrent, which was related to Teranga's assets that, they've since been bought out by Endeavor. But you can see the soil geochemistry continues for roughly another 6 kilometers along this feature. So gradually over time, we'll continue to explore this feature, running air core fences along here. And I think it's likely that this will end up becoming a very important exploration corridor for the company and could be one of those areas that has multi-million ounce potential. The other zone of interest is Mogiafara South. And it's probably worth mentioning that this particular property we've been trying to acquire since 2017. The regional knowledge that we have about this area is part of a much larger database of about 500 square kilometers of ground that includes drilling, magnetics, soil geochemistry, mapping, and so on. And so we understood that this deposit was here. It was just held up in government bureaucracy, and we had wanted it for quite some time because we really liked the scale and the size. I think demonstrates the potential, and its proximity to the Senegal Mali Shear Zone for us is a big deal. As I said, you've got several 5 to 10 million ounce plus deposits along this feature. So you're looking at analytical signal magnetic as a background. You can see the open pit outline of the resource. As I said, it's about a 400,000 ounce resource at this time. And so you can see the open pit outline from the 43101. The beigeish triangles are all the historical drilling from the company who was active there between 2000 and 2003. And that was actually Hyundai Motor Company. Yeah, they were exploring for gold in Western Africa in the early 2000s for some reason. But we were the beneficiaries of this data. what you see here is part of the walking magnetic survey we carried out earlier this year. And really what we wanted to understand was there some correlation between the structures, the magnetics, and the drilling? And much to our delight, there seems to be a very high correlation in this area with the magnetic highs and the drill holes that ran gold in early 2000. And Hyundai didn't have any of this information because they didn't do this type of work. They just did drilling. So we see a lot more additional opportunity in the magnetic highs, and we have to go drill our own holes here to get our own information. So once we finish at Gorbassi West North, the rig will come over here, and we've designed some deeper core holes, again, to cut through the rock package and try and get some firsthand geological information for ourselves. But if you look at these magnetic highs and you take it into consideration with other stuff like some of the soil geochemistry and the artisanal mining in the area, it looks like there's a lot more potential. The other thing I'd mention about this deposit as it exists today is the average depth of the holes drilled here about 60 vertical meters. So no one has really probed at depth this area in any kind of material way. So we see opportunities here along strike, but we also see opportunities here at depth. This is just a zoomed out view of what you were just looking at. So this encompasses the entire walking magnetic survey. You can see, if you look carefully, where the pit outlines still are. And then we've identified what we think are some very interesting targets that correlate well with good soil geochemical values and also with the magnetic highs, which we think are very interesting targets in this area. So we're very excited about this prospect, and we just have to get there and start doing some work. So this will be the main focus for the rest of the season, these two areas. Mali has a wet season that makes exploration pretty difficult. So usually we shut things down by the end of June, early July, when the rains come, and then we get back out in the field in early December. So hopefully we'll be just exploring and drilling for the rest of this season, and we'll collect that data. And if the results are material enough, we'll probably take the off season to update the resource, and hopefully we've added material ounces and are further advanced on our way to building a material deposit in this region that'll get us noticed. So that's it for me. I'm happy to take questions, but I think that's everything for me at the moment.
Perfect, Jared. Thank you very much for the presentation. A lot of information contained, big properties, a lot of places to look out for. Maybe if we have a little of time, so basically we still have almost 15 minutes on our hands, so I invite everyone to ask questions to Jared in the Q&A. And in the meantime, I'm going to pick up the conversation with you. The entire IIF team was in Indaba 2022 a week and a half ago. What is your view on Africa as a resource sector right now, and how dynamic the scene is? And if you can give the attendees maybe a little bit of taste of what you're feeling down there.
Sure. No, happy to. I think, just to address the elephant in the room, we've seen some less than desirable outcomes politically in the region, in Mali with the bloodless coup, over a year and a half ago, and Burkina Faso seeming to be following in a similar direction. And I think those types of headlines they're not helpful. But what I've seen practically on the ground in terms of how the Ministry of Mines are functioning, how the DNGM is functioning, is there's been no disruptions whatsoever. In fact, our applications for additional land, like this piece of property package here at Mogi Afara, we were finally able to get it through an application directly to the government. And that was to the coup government. Under the previous government, this thing had been languishing for nearly a decade. So we have had no issues. We haven't seen any destabilizing security events. We travel in this region freely without security. And if anything, the Ministry of Mines has been functioning very well. And you know, the exploration potential here, I think, is self-evident in this part of the world, and that's why all the big companies are there. You know, the Barricks, the Endeavors, the B2s. And so I think there is definitely a difference between the perceived risk in this geopolitical risk in this part of the world and the actual risk. I think the actual risk from an operating perspective is much lower than the perceived risk.
And I guess this perception will be changing also as more people are having boots on the ground and going there and investing in Africa.
Yeah, absolutely. And I genuinely hope that the government of Mali is working towards a democratic election. And it seems that they are doing that just at a slower pace than the outside influence would want them to. But I think that will happen soon, you know, probably within the next 12 months. I'm hopeful anyways.
Great to hear. Countries that are getting stable and that are stabilizing is always good for business, and obviously that means your business. And going back on the property,
Yeah.
so basically this is a very big playfield you have. There's a lot to cover. We saw your drilling map. I think this is one of the most extensive in kilometers I saw drill map for a very long time, which is actually a very good thing, meaning that there is a lot of gold or possible gold all around the property. How do you go with planning such targets? I mean, those are all very different location, very different strikes and so on. Can you maybe tell the attendees how it works and the process you go through to establish those targets?
Sure. Yeah, we have essentially an internal priority system, and it's based on what we're looking for here are big systems with big tonnage at economic grades. And so when we're looking to explore how we evaluate priorities, you know, when you have 24, 25 known gold zones with drilling, it's really about where do we see a system that has multi-million ounce potential. So we're looking for wide systems and systems with significant strike length. And we feel these two zones at the moment, Mogia Far South and Gorbassi West North, right now show us the most potential for that. Now, that being said, we have other targets in the central part of the property package. As an example, SOA. We went up there doing reconnaissance. We found a very large active artisanal working area, maybe 500 or 600 local people mining. And so we drilled some holes underneath the workings, and we drilled into 2 grams over 30 meters, and that hole ended in mineralization. The hole just a little ways off, 2.34 grams over 5 meters. That was the last 5 meters of that hole. Well, that drilling was done 18 months ago, and we haven't had a chance to get back there. So you could step out, do a more robust program here, and SOA in this area could end up being a game changer. But we just don't have enough information yet to take us up here to distract away from what we're seeing at Gorbassi West North and what we're seeing at Mogia Far South. I mean, at Gorbassi West, you already have 200,000 ounces of resource, and now you've found a system. You've now essentially tripled the strike length of that system, and you've drilled into an area that's 3 times wider. So that really starts to get your attention. And likewise at Mogia Far South, it's a 400,000 ounce package that we acquired for the cost of an application, $18,000 US. You know, we just haven't had the chance to go out there and do the work ourselves. So to sort of drill down on that, we have a priority list. It's based on where we see the biggest ore body potential, but that list is capable of sliding and changing with ongoing explorations at other areas if we see a game changer, for instance, when we do work in another zone.
That's very interesting, and it brings me to the next question. Basically, some investors might be more used to one deposit, one big open pit, one underground.
Sure.
How common it is to have actually separate, smaller deposits and bring that into production, especially in Africa?
Right. Well, Mali has proven to be a very low cost producing region compared to some other parts of the world. And there's a lot of your question. There's a lot of nuance and detail. But if you look at these four zones here, they're all within a 12-kilometer radius of one another. So you've got at the moment, and all these zones are open along strike and at depth, but at the moment you've got 400,000 ounces here, you've got 60 some odd thousand ounces here, and you got about 200 to 220,000 ounces a piece here and here. So you could get to a situation where you could build a centralized processing facility, and you probably build it closest to the biggest ore body, and then you could bring feed to that mill from these other satellite deposits. So that's a very possible scenario. Now, if you have stuff up here, Manicoto, 40 kilometers away, that's probably not realistic to truck it. But trucking ore, as long as the grade is economic, 4, 5, 6 kilometers isn't that big of a deal. So that's actually the scenario we potentially see unfolding down here in the southern part of the property.
And this could lead obviously to the equivalent of having a multi-million ounce deposit, as those are all truckable to the same mill and so on.
Right. But to be clear, we see each of these corridors here and here as having that multi-million ounce potential. So you could have two very significant deposits very close to one another. And this northeast feature here seems to hold some very, very good grades, but it hasn't demonstrated the scale in terms of size yet. And that's why it's on the lower priority levels to these zones here and here.
Absolutely. And are you fully financed for your next drilling campaign, 2022?
Well, we're fully financed to complete what we're doing now here at Gorbassi West North and Mogia Fara South. But quite frankly, it's been a challenging market for the explorers. Getting good drill results and advancing projects, we haven't seen our share price rewarded in the market, unfortunately. So that kind of puts us in a challenging spot because we're very conscientious of the dilution. But at the same time, we need to do the work to advance these projects. So I would like to do a lot more than we're doing, quite frankly, but really it's a function of trying to be mindful of dilution and not trying to raise too much money at too low prices.
I think this is a good way to obviously protect equity in the company for current shareholders, and that's for sure appreciated from your current shareholder base. And
if I could elaborate on that point, if you don't mind.
Yeah, go ahead.
We're also looking at alternative ways of bringing capital in the company that doesn't involve raising, issuing shares out of our treasury. And so structures such as royalty streaming deals and so on are being looked at and evaluated. And, if we have something material to talk about on that front in the near future, we'll obviously release it publicly. But we're trying to explore creative and alternative ways to get the capital that we need without, raising money when you're trading near your 52-week lows, right?
No, absolutely. And obviously, as for example, you're talking about streaming, even royalty of 1, 2, 3% would not affect the economics of such a project in case it develops in the future. So that's also a very intelligent way. Usually there are buybacks clauses in there that you can later acquire for more money. So basically, it's like a bridge financing. So it's a very, very intelligent solution for sure if it materializes. And that brings me to a question that there was in the audience, which was basically, can a company like you look forward to be acquired by bigger guys in the future? But I would rather change that question to how likely it is that you joint venture and you partner for 20% or such, because you're I think it's too early to talk about takeover, but clearly maybe in the good state with a very high potential up to joint venture with one of the big guys.
Sure, that's a great question. So I get that question often. Are you doing this to try and get acquired? Are you going to try and transition into mining? And I think the best way to look at it, at least from my perspective, is the work that you have to do on the ground doesn't change at all,
Exactly.
irrespective of what your intention is. You have to go out and find a large economic ore body where you can thereby make a production decision on. And if through that process you end up getting acquired or getting tendered, I mean, that's up to the shareholders to decide what they want to do. I will just say though that this area has been an absolute hotbed for M&A activity. I mean, I'll just go over it very quickly because we have a bit of time. This was an Endeavor acquisition of Teranga for this property package here, which abuts our property package on the Senegal side right here. Allied Gold acquired this from IM Gold, Anglo Gold Ashanti. Lulo-Gounkoto was a very large acquisition by Barrick Gold of Rand Gold, and Mark Bristow now runs that company. And Tabakoto-Segala was a $450 million acquisition by Endeavor of Avian Gold. And Don Dudek was the VPX, our technical director. He was the VPX of Avian when they were acquired. And likewise, Papillon was acquired by Fekola, or excuse me, by B2 Gold. And you know, it's a similar story because that Fekola or that Papillon deposit was 300,000 or 400,000 ounces. But when they looked at it and did more drilling, it grew substantially, and they ended up having a very good success. So to sort of answer your question,
I think the map you're showing is provide all the explanation needed for anyone who has a doubt about your corporate model, that being taking over or building it one way or the other. If you discover millions of ounces, it will get built by you or someone else. But one thing is sure. It will be economical. All right. Well, Jared, that was all the time we have. I want to thank you very much for participating in the IIF. We're very happy to listen and watch the new development. This is an exciting story. I think there's a tremendous upside potential, and we'll be sure to follow your story online.
Thank you so much, Julian. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Jared.
All right. Bye-bye.